Good afternoon, UTLA family. Good afternoon to all the educators, parents, grandparents, guardians, and students with us today. Thank you for being with me this Friday and for every time you have joined us. It has been a long stretch of these weekly updates. As summer break approaches, next Friday will be the last regularly scheduled live update, but we will still be in this virtual space off and on to keep educators and families updated throughout the coming months. Today, we have an update from the bargaining table, a look at the mental health crisis facing our students, and we will celebrate an LA Unified pioneer as part of Pride Month. First, an update on bargaining for the physical reopening for 2021-2022. As we know, LA Unified plans to fully reopen for the next school year with an overwhelming majority of staff and students physically attending school 5 days per week, unless pandemic conditions change for the worse. Safety continues to be a priority at the bargaining table. With early education centers reopening and summer school starting on June 23rd, it is imperative that we get a health and safety measures in place as soon as possible to protect students, families, and educators who are in our school buildings year-round. Our bargaining team made a lot of progress this week, and they are back in session with the district as of late this afternoon. As always, we will keep you updated on any developments, and any agreement reached will be voted on by the UTLA membership. We are pressing for a new agreement that locks in most of the concrete enforceable COVID protocols from our current agreement that have proven to keep students, staff, and families safe. This includes maintenance of protocols for COVID testing, screening, ventilation, cleaning, and disinfecting, and a COVID-19 compliance task force at every school. Masking must continue for students, staff, and visitors when the school year begins, with a possible provision that we can bargain over changes after September 1st. Having more children vaccinated may move us closer to eliminating the mask mandate, but as of right now, masking is a critical way to protect our learning communities and the most vulnerable among us. Even as California celebrates improved COVID rates and moves toward a full reopening, our hard-hit communities continue to suffer. In a troubling shift, new data shows that Black people in LA County now have the highest risk of coronavirus infection, hospitalizations, and death of any racial or ethnic group. As the racial disparity in vaccination rates in LA County persists, with Black and brown residents and people in disadvantaged communities continuing to be vaccinated at lower rates than other residents. These are the communities we serve and the families we need to center in all decisions about health and safety. LA Unified has the lowest number of COVID infections among the nation's largest school districts because of the safety protocols we fought for and won, and we will not compromise on health and safety. As far as what the school day will look like next year, we are looking at an agreement that would eliminate hybrid instructional models, with most staff and students physically attending school full-time 5 days a week. In the recent UTLA member survey, Educators rated hybrid schedules as the most challenging aspect of the physical return to school. Hybrid schedules are an imperfect solution in a difficult time. We know that the richest learning experience happens face-to-face, where students can build deeper connections with teachers, educators, and peers, and get the critical supports they need from counselors, psychologists, psychiatric social workers, and so many others. Thankfully, it looks like we will be able to achieve that next year if pandemic conditions continue to improve. Of course, there must continue to be an option for school staff who are high risk to seek a remote work assignment, and we are bargaining elements of an online academy for students whose families choose to stay with remote learning. When we return to physical campuses next year, our learning communities will need additional staff members to provide students with an increased academic and social emotional supports. Hiring those caring adults will be a challenge for LA Unified in the face of a historic educator shortage in the labor market. To help address this, we are bargaining for a signing bonus for new hires for next school year. This would be one step toward addressing the serious issue of both attracting educators and retaining them as districts compete for a shrinking pool of educators to work with students. Addressing childcare is part of recruitment and retention, with women across the country facing hurdles to employment because of the lack of quality, affordable childcare. The LAUSD childcare subsidy will run through the end of July. While the subsidy is not a perfect or permanent solution for everyone facing childcare issues, it has helped many families. Childcare challenges are a continuing conversation in our union. Access to childcare is a social justice issue, and we will keep advocating for sustainable solutions. Organizing and bargaining continues for other elements of a healthy, healing, racially just return, as reflected in the member priorities in the recent UTLA survey. Those priorities include lowering class size, raising educator pay, investing in special education, and hiring additional health and human service staff. As a part of the same struggle, we are working with the Reclaim Our Schools LA Coalition and other community partners to build a district budget for next year around a similar set of demands that meets the needs of our students and communities. A shout out to UTLA member Yesenia Chavez, a kindergarten and first grade teacher at UCLA Community School in Koreatown, for powerfully illuminating some of those student needs to the LA Times. Yesenia has seen hardship engulf her students, many of whom are immigrants. They have become increasingly sad and withdrawn as their families face evictions, financial hardship, deportation hearings, and the death of family members to COVID-19. Yesenia says her students are thirsty for connection and need a lot of one-on-one care. One girl darts outside to the playground any chance she gets. A boy came to class for 2 days and then did not return because the new routine overwhelmed him. Thank you, Yesenia, for sharing your students' realities. Our schools face a student mental health crisis from the pandemic. Youth of color from hard-hit communities are particularly vulnerable to trauma, which can manifest as irritability or emotional outbursts, acting hopeless or withdrawn, and difficulty paying attention or retaining new information. All this impacts students' ability to thrive in the classroom. Hope is coming with an infusion of funding to public schools. LAUSD will be receiving between $2 billion and $4 billion in one-time money from President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan. And in Governor Newsom's proposed budget, schools will receive a big influx of money, including $4 billion for youth mental health support and $3 billion for community schools, where campuses are hubs that connect family with healthcare and mental health services. LA Unified will be getting a historic amount of funding, and we are organizing to make sure it is used effectively. This funding could be a game changer for our kids if allocated equitably. This is the time to fight for transformational change in our public schools and in our society. June is Pride Month, and let us shout that out. As educators, we celebrate self-affirmation. We celebrate visibility. We celebrate dignity and equality. In honor of Pride Month, I want to talk about a pioneer in the LGBTQIA community, our own Dr. Virginia Uribe. Virginia served as a science teacher and college counselor at Fairfax High School for 42 years. She passed in 2019, but she left an indelible, groundbreaking legacy. In 1984, an openly gay student at Fairfax dropped out after he was continually harassed by other students. Further investigation showed that the student had been kicked out of his home at the age of 14 after telling his parents he was gay. Fairfax was the fourth high school he had left after sexual harassment proved too much for him. The students at Fairfax who were LGBTQIA had a sort of Rosa Parks moment where they said, enough is enough. Virginia was not out at the time, but she realized that she needed to come out, and she became one of the first educators in LA Unified to do so. Virginia opened her classroom at lunchtime for the students to talk, and from that beginning Project 10. Project 10 was formed, the nation's very first school-based dropout prevention and support program for LGBTQIA students. Project 10 served as a launchpad across the country for gay-straight alliances, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, and pro-equality public policies, student curriculum, and progressive changing attitudes toward LGBTQIA youth. In her decades-long advocacy, Virginia faced down fierce attacks from the anti-gay religious right. She stayed committed to the idea that schools should be where discrimination is fought, not a place where prejudice is taught. This Pride Month, I lift up the work of Dr. Virginia Uribe and the ongoing work by educators to create safe spaces for all students, through unconditional love, honesty, and self-empowerment. Okay, folks, let's wrap this up tonight. UTLA members, if something breaks in bargaining, we will be in touch. Check your emails. I hope you have a restorative weekend. Rest up because the final stretch is here. One more week before the summer break that you have earned with your blood, sweat, and tears. Until next time, stay UTLA strong, stay united, because together we rise.